Happy Friday, fire signs. So, you guys are like feeling sorry for yourselves in a way because you've like been having to like have conversations with people or friends or family or something about spending less time with them or kind of like adjusting your work schedules, life schedules, like slowly like cutting people out, I guess in a way is like what I'm feeling. And you've had to look yourself in the mirror and have this conversation with yourself and be more honest with yourself. And it's kind of left you feeling a little empty in some ways for these decisions that you've had to make. But it's like stuff you actually had to do. And so you kind of like feel like you're selling yourself out in a way. But it's not, because you're being honest with yourself for once. But I guess in some ways you haven't done that before, is what I'm feeling. It's like you're finally having these conversations with yourself when you've never had them, so that's what kind of feels strange. Or you're acknowledging the conversations is a better way to put it. Like, otherwise you would just ignore it, keep like fucking putting it to the back, and finally for once you're like taking that mask off and you're like, yeah, I have to do this. And acknowledging that these are conversations you do need to have with self, and then being the bigger person and actually not ghosting the people you need to do it with, and actually being the bigger person and having these conversations. So, in your dreams, which you don't always remember either, is what I'm hearing. And you have a lot of them, to be quite honest. Way more than you actually think. You're being shown a lot of things. And things that need to change, and things that are going to change, and things for the future. So when you have those deja vu moments, this is why. Because you have been shown this information in your dreams. And that's where you're like, I feel like, or I've seen this. This is why. Because they've shown you in your dreams. You've seen it here. And that's why you feel like you've been here, lived this confirmation. And done this before. Because you have been shown this. That way you can kind of prepare yourself, and in some ways have these conversations with others, or prepare yourself for when this stuff comes to flourish, because sometimes it can be conversations you could have avoided that are a little more aggressive. You could brace yourself for them, because you don't always do well with conflict. You don't like conflict. That's something else you can work on, because you have risen in, no, risen isn't a good word to use. You've changed, and so you've leveled up. Because life is going to get better if it hasn't already started to get better in a lot of ways. Because you're just not with the bullshit anymore. That's the way to put it. You're just making it easier for yourself. You've changed. And that's a good thing, because the positive changes are coming. And the more you start being proactive with your life, the easier it gets. Because you've learned now that the more you suppress things and like put it on the back burner and like, I'm going to deal with that later, you've realized how that catches up to you, and then it's harder to deal with things. So if you're proactive with a lot of this stuff, it makes life so much easier. There's less stress, less things to deal with, and just makes it stress-free. Like, weight's lifted, and you're like, oh, yeah. So, happy Friday!